Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru coming to you from my off-grid studio, getting our kicks on historic Route 66. We're here every Tuesday, 5 p.m. to help you with some content, provide some fun and fellowship. Let us know what series exam you're taking, where you're joining us from. Once we get the housekeeping out of the way, if you do have a question, it's helpful if you tell us what is the exam you're taking, because the depth of the question, there is overlapping content, but how they ask something on the SIE is different than how they offer it on the Series 7. For example, if you are looking for a free supplement to your paid study materials, there's nothing better than this YouTube channel. There's over 2,000 videos. Woo! I've organized that as around the exam. So you find your exam, SIE, for example, and there'll be playlists. The playlists are in suggested watch order. I think the SIE, I have 4 of them. Most of them start with a podcast overview of the entire exam, kind of let you get a look at the terrain, so to speak, do some recon. Then there's lectures, and there's a practice test and things like that. So if you're looking for a particular topic, it's okay, but my goodness, I get asked the same question over and over and over again, and the answers are in video form. They're on the channel forever. So use that channel search bar. If you're looking for accrued interest or margin or, quadro, something like that, put it in the channel search bar and that content will magically appear. You don't want to be looking for a needle in a haystack, so to speak. If you're looking for a paid supplement to your study materials, if you don't have a Kaplan Q Bank, I highly recommend it. With my 15% discount code at checkout, that works for all Kaplan products and services. You can actually get a Q Bank for, depending on your exam, Series 7, for example, $55.80 with 3,600 performance opportunities. Woo! And then my buddy Brian Lee, managing member Test Geek Exam Prep, has been kind enough to give our viewers a 20% discount on his distillation of test content. So nice bridge between those massive study materials and then the distillation of what you actually need to know on the test and how that is tested. We do have other communities besides the YouTube community. We have, where'd it go? There it is. It's scrolling on the bottom. We have a Facebook community, over 2,000 members. Crazy. It's called Baby Brokers Doing Hat Trick. Baby Brokers is a term of endearment for rookies in the securities industry, and a hat trick is 3 successes in a limited time frame. Think SIE 766, SIE 663. You get the idea. We also have Reddit communities. We have a subreddit for the Series 6. We have a subreddit for the SIE and Series 7, R Series 7. We have a subreddit for NASAA exams, R Series 66. That would be 63, 65, 66. And we have a subreddit for 9, 10s, and 24s. If you win the coaching call tonight, we do a coaching call for drawing winners. Not sure how I have 6 people for the coaching call. We do it once a week. That should be 4. For whatever reason, there's 6 of them tomorrow. If you do win, to claim that coaching call, you go to deantenneytutoring.setmore.com, hit the class tab. You'll see coaching call for drawing winners. That's where you get your link and your Zoom link for that coaching call. Almost everything on the, I should say everything on the YouTube channel is completely free. There is no paywall on the YouTube channel. But in my booking page, only a few 3 things. We talked about that coaching call for drawing winners. We have a weekly Q&A jam session that allows us to do a little more than what we can do in this format, because I have a whiteboard and we can do some more stuff. You're welcome to join us for that. That's open to all people. That's free. We have a book club this month, or I think we got like 4 weeks to read this massive book. But our book club title for this month, November, is 1929 by Aaron Sorkin. He is a great author. He's a New York Times. He's in charge of the Deal Book. He's the morning anchor on Squawk Box on CNBC. I think it's going to be a good read. I haven't actually started, hoping to start it this weekend, but everything I've read that he's written has been pretty good. Oh, excuse me. Okay, I'm also teaching a Guru Exam Prep, Kaplan 66, November 17th and 19th. Again, you can register for that class on the Kaplan portal, and Guru 15 is the discount code for that. All right. I think that takes care of all our housekeeping. Let's go see what you guys want to talk about tonight. Boom, boom, boom. I am devastated. Took the 66, missed by 8 points. Oh man, that hurts. Man, that hurts, Jay. What do? I feel horrible. I get it. What I would do, I have recommendations about how to respond to that misfortune. I don't know if you watched my video. You failed. Is it over? Spoiler alert, the answer is no. I have 5 recommendations about how to respond to that misfortune. Now, if you've already watched that before you missed it by today by 1 point, I don't think 1 point is knowledge deficit, unfortunately. I'm dating myself, but I come from way, way back. And back in the day, there wasn't a 30-day wait period. And I literally tell you just to cue that thing back up, Jay, and take it again. Unfortunately, that isn't available. Here's a plan B for you, Jay. With that kind of a score, I think it's very possible that you could take the 63 Friday, Monday, Tuesday, pass out of it because the Uniform Securities Act is the Uniform Securities Act. And then you could take a 65, which has about 30 more questions, mainly on economics. And I think you could pass out of that. That way you're not waiting on the 30-day wait. And if you miss the third time, you're going to get the 180. So that gets you what? 2 more bats, and you don't have to wait. I like that as a plan B. The 63J and the 65 are the equivalent of the 66. I just had a young man, and he told me his father is a big producer at the firm, that they wouldn't recognize the 63, 65. I said, that's kind of odd. I've never heard of such a thing. Why don't you go to bat for it and see what happens? And so that would be my recommendation. Hey, Edward, what's up? What's up? Tomorrow's coaching call locked. It's capped at the coaching call is for drawing winners. So look, I'm not sure if you're a drawing winner, but I'm more than happy to welcome you in. It is capped at 6. So I'd have to send you a link to the coaching call directly or add some space. And I don't think it will let me do that with this short notice. So send me an email, dean@guruexamprep.com, and look, I'm more than happy to let you into that coaching call. 65 tomorrow. Woo! Scottsdale, Arizona. I'll be down there Thursday. I got to take mom to Phoenix, Scottsdale for her, doctor's appointment. She does a series of these shots. So I went to Arizona State, and I spent a lot of time teaching on the campus at Schwab there at Scottsdale. So I love Scottsdale. I'm a big Scottsdale fan. We're sending you good energy, Jordan, for tomorrow. Tomorrow, wow, all right, love it. We're sending some good test vibes your way. Make sure, gentlemen, ladies, the biggest thing you can do tonight is get some rest. I don't know about you, but boy, when I'm tired, my reading skills are greatly diminished. And you got to be on top of your reading skills, right? Read the full question, read the full answer set, even more so on that 65 on those NASA exams. So make sure you get as much as you can. Try and get a good night's rest. Your study effort, for all intents and purposes, is over at this point, right? So what you got to do today is get some rest, be confident in the execution of your study plan, be confident in yourself. I can't stress this enough. Be confident in your answers tomorrow. Don't be changing answers. Don't be second guessing yourself. You take the test. Don't let this test take you, right? Be the test. Let it come to you. Let it come to you. 3 weeks. Well, I'm glad to hear you 3 weeks because the 10 is a real slog. I mean, oh my goodness. It's just a slog. So I'm glad you got 3 weeks. I would try and get through read the book cover to cover as soon as you can. Yeah, and 10s are challenging too, because usually people taking the 10 have other responsibilities as well as trying to take the 10. So that could be a real challenge. Make sure you block out or try and carve out at least 60 minutes, 90 minutes a day just to devote to the 10. If you're a full-time studier, wonderful. But if you're, trying to juggle a lot of things, make sure you give it the time. I had somebody taking the 10 and she, oh, Dean, you'd be so proud of me. Dean, I did 90 minutes. I go, great. She goes, yeah, I did 20 minutes on the subway. I did another 20. I go, no. That's not what we need. We need a block of 60 to 90 minutes. Morning, afternoon. Mornings are better if you can, before the energy vampires get to you, right? Woohoo! Caleb, we have it toasting, a very special toasting beverage. We're going to do Johnny Walker Blue tonight. Johnny Walker Blue as our toasting beverage for our victorious test takers. Woohoo. I don't know how much like you should get here. Let's see. How many victorious test takers do you think we have tonight? I guess that would be how much I should pour, right? Cheers. I would imagine that's probably the third leg of your testing journey, Caleb. So, I joke, I come into your life for a reason and a season. So it looks like you got the hat trick, would be my guess. There you go. You told us you did. Fantastic. So you've got that hat trick done. And now it's time to put these registrations to work, right? Put these registrations to work, taking care of you and your family and your clients. So how exciting. How exciting. How do you feel about using dual materials, Achievable and Kaplan? Well, as long as you get, it's like having too many voices in your head. As long as you're not getting confused by different voices, then I'm a fan of that. So dual material, I don't think you should be monogamous in your study efforts. Anybody who can help you, any test prep vendor, whether it's the guru, myself, or somebody else, the test geek, just make sure you don't get so many voices that, you're starting to get confused. And then be careful. One of the reasons I collaborate with Brian Lee, the test geek, is because we're not too different. I mean, we have some differences, but I don't think if I refer somebody to them that, they're going to be more messed up than when they started. So I'm a fan of that. And I'm a fan. If you have the resources, why not? We just had somebody asking about the Series 10, particularly on 9s, 10s, 24s. I'm a big believer in multiple vendors, particularly on those principal exams. Debt coverage ratio and statutory debt limit. Well, a debt service coverage ratio, the only test question there is that it goes with a revenue bond. So I would highly recommend you take a sheet of paper and on one half write all the terms associated with geo bonds and all the terms associated with revenue bonds, because a big part of your exam as it relates to munis is distinguishing between those. So debt service coverage ratio is about a revenue bond. And if it's open-ended in the trust indenture, if we have an additional bonds test where we can, tap the capital markets and sell some more bonds, think here like an airport. I say, how are we doing on our debt service coverage ratio? And my chief financial officer at the airport says, Dean, we promised our bondholders 3-to-1, or 2-to-1. 2-to-1 is more normal. And we're at 3-to-1. I say, how many additional bonds can I issue without violating that debt service coverage covenant, promise that we've made? So you won't have to do any math there. You just need to go with revenue bond. Statutory debt limit would be for a geo bond. And, what we would want the political subdivision, the city or the county, to do is impose upon themselves a statutory debt limit so that at some point they have to recognize their problems and deal with them. If they don't have a statutory debt limit, well, then they can just continue to issue bonds and, they get into so much hot water, hello bankruptcy, right? It doesn't happen often. Muni bonds are the second safest form of credit, but, Oakland, Detroit, Michigan, Orange County, California, Jefferson County, Alabama. These are political subdivisions that went bankrupt, filed for what we call Chapter 7 or Chapter 9. So that's what the statutory debt limit is about. As a bondholder, you would prefer that they do have a statutory debt limit. Some political subdivisions do, some don't. Taking the 7 on Thursday. Well, okay. We'll be seeing some good test vibes. 79 next week. Final thoughts on how to approach the final week. Yeah, I don't know who your test prep vendor is. Notman does a really good job on the 79. I've been meaning, it won't do you any good because you're taking it right away, but I'm going to put up a 79 practice test in the, on the channel. Just won't do you any good. I would just be firming up what you know. I think a lot of people overestimate the amount of math. So I don't know, maybe you're a math person and you're looking forward to lots of math. I don't know. It's usually people love math, hate math, whatever the case may be. I would like to know what your practice test scores are. What are my final thoughts? Because I'd like to know, are you still seat back, nose up, 747 trying to get off the ground on the 79? Are you already smooth sailing? Then you just got to stick the landing, secure your belongings. So if you think about it, if you are participating in chat, your personal business is going to be out there. But if you don't mind that, I'd like to know where you're at. It's hard for me to answer that without having some more data. So maybe a practice test score, who your vendor is, that would be helpful. Yeah, keep plugging away. There you go. I like that. Learning one thing new per day. That's kind of what I say, right? My version of that is inch by inch. Your exam's a cinch, yard by yard. Your exam is hard. 7 and 5 days, what should I do until then? Well, again, I think people were asking me kind of vague questions about what should I do this week? What should I do in 5 days? Same thing, Puddles, I said to OVO, right? I'd like some more data. I'd like to know what you've done up to these 5 T plus T minus 5, right? Do you have a practice test score for me? Are you in the mid 70s at least? So what should you take the final in the morning? Should I take? Absolutely not. I had a guy today and we were having this conversation. And I believe in taking practice tests as an intellectual inventory. So about 7-10 days out, because we want to know where you're going to pass. He's testing on Thursday. So we had a tutoring session this morning. I almost never, ever book tutoring 2-3 days out, but I'm not worried about him. And so he said, what do you think? Same kind of a question. I said, whatever you want to do. You've earned that right. You're right where you need to be. If you think taking a practice test tomorrow, day before, will help you keep your rhythm, I'm not worried that you're going to get some awful score and you're going to damage your psyche. So by all means do that. I would never recommend he's going at 2:00 on Thursday that he do one Thursday morning. There I said, hey, just, review, maybe watch my Mighty 90 series or, watch tips, tricks, and memory aids. Just kind of keep your rhythm. So not the final morning of, I'm not opposed the day before, depending where you're at psyche-wise. The final data point for taking a practice test is usually the day before the day before. That would where we get our last score. Maybe we can do some fine tuning, and then we go down there and test. Took my 65, third time, Don. I'm so excited for you. So excited for you. You deserve it, my friend. That's passing 2 tests. You're 65 and a test of your resiliency. So I just cheers. Now I get really excited for people like Don. We had another Vince. I don't know if he'll pop in, but I got so excited for Vince and Don that sometimes people think that I wish upon them taking the test 3 times. Absolutely not. But boy, what a passing a test of resiliency, and you're 65. That is such a great future indicator of your success in our business. That is a good cheers there. I had one of my best brokers took the test 5 times. And Don, he'd go out and say, hey, if everybody knows this stuff, I had to take the test 5 times. People invest with you because they like you and they trust you. Oh man, Don, I was just talking to somebody the other day, same situation. I wish we don't give it. Listen, you got to do it the hard way, just like everybody else. And boy, being a mom with a full-time job, part-time, that's crazy. So, 63 and 6 next. Well, I got good news for you, Don. If you can pass the 65, I'm thinking you're going to think the 63 and a 6 are a breeze compared to that 65. And nothing like moms. My mom was a single working mom, and she was at work one day, and I called. I think it was like 10 or 11, and her assistant answered, and I was asking what I'm going to do for lunch, and her assistant told me, I guess you're going to starve because your mom is busy. So that's great behavior to model too for your kids. So I had a mom, she was doing it only time she could study was like 5 to 6:30 in the morning before she get the kids off the work. So listen, Don, there were probably some men and women joining us. And we're not, sending any negative vibes their way, but it makes me less empathetic, Don, for some of our younger men and women who are getting 4 months with pay, and their only thing they're supposed to do is pass the tests. So halfway through my series 6-7 book, just finished off, so ready to fire up the tea. Love it. I'm an OG. I think people should read the book. So, people ask me a gazillion times. I read the book. I don't know why you keep asking. The answer is always going to be yes. So I'm glad to hear that. That's what you should do. SIE in 1 month. That's plenty of time, Anthony. Pass the SIE. Love Chicago. Another one of my favorite towns. We just had somebody open a hot dog stand, and they said they're selling Chicago dogs. And I didn't want to, rain on their parade, but I want to say that's not a Chicago dog. Kind of questions. Well, always, I have an SIE podcast I'd recommend. It gives you a nice overview of the terrain on the entire exam. But the biggest part of the SIE is 33 questions on investment products. So that's, make sure you pay attention to the weighting. Go to the FINRA website, get the SIE content outline, have that next to you when you're doing your study sessions. and use it kind of like an intellectual inventory. Every time you think you got something, put a little check mark, say, hey, I got that. I intellectually own that. So I'd recommend that. And then about 1 week out, make sure you go to the website and do the SIE FINRA practice test. It's really a great practice test. 66 tomorrow. I certainly can, Kelsey, go over that. So if your employer offers you options and they give you a choice of incentive stock options or non-qualified stock options, take incentive stock options. There are tax advantages to an incentive stock option. That's the test question. In non-qualified stock options, when you vest, it's part of your compensation, you owe taxes. Incentive stock options, that's not true. So you could actually vest and then you not have to deal with the taxes until you actually exercise those options at some future date. You may be able to qualify for a long-term capital gain, and that's not going to be the case on non-qualified. So there you go. A few times. That's crazy. Crazy. The only other thing I could think of would be low probability is that incentive stock options is a preference item under AMT, but that would be the only thing. I'm not sure how they could test you, 5 questions on an incentive stock option. I think here, Kelsey, of Elon at Tesla. Elon had non-qualified stock options. When he was vested, he owed taxes and he had to sell $9 billion worth of Tesla stock to, cover the taxes on that. How do you win? We do have drawing, at the end. So at the very end, I spin the wheel of fortune and it goes round and round. And if you're in the chat and you put in the word that I'm going to put up there, that's how you win. Final chance. Oh, God, I hate that, right? So, hey, you just got to put that aside, do what you can, try as much as you can to take a positive mental attitude in there tomorrow. I would think that if you failed and you've done the work, I can't imagine you haven't found 3 questions, right? So be confident in the execution of this study plan. Be confident in yourself. Most importantly, tomorrow, man, be confident in those answers. Ugh, Jack, that hurts. Yeah. Well, we got to overlearn, right? We got to have a margin of safety. I think when you fail by 1 question, it's not a knowledge deficit. You had enough knowledge base. There's some other variable. And we want to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And so what I would recommend is overlearn everything. It doesn't say when you fail, Jack. If I'm hoping the herd is fresh, go get the study guideline for the 66 or test specifications for the 66. Look that over and see if you can find some weak areas, some things that you said, oh man, damn, that's what got me. And then make sure you don't, sometimes when people miss twice in a row, they work at getting everything they were weak in and on the last draw up and then forget the draws are random. And then they get a different draw on the stuff they were strong in and drop. So make sure if you can find some gaps to plug through that test specification, through that study guide, great. Get that under control, bring everything else up, keep everything above par. And that's would be my recommendation. Pennsylvania. All right. Are you a crew member at Vanguard? That's where a corporate campus for Vanguard is, Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. Malvern. Oh, well, thank you. Prayers up. You got it. We're sending you good test vibes. What is that? It looks like a horse. A horse is a horse, of course. I like that. There we go. Love it. For those of you who are not testing tomorrow, a saying for you: God helps them who helps themselves. Those who wait passively for fortune to shower their gifts upon them are likely to wait a very long time. So for those of you who have 2-3 weeks, somebody told me they got a month out, make sure you put in the effort so we don't have to call on divine intervention. Can I do a quick review of direct participation programs and orders if possible? I've watched all your content before. A quick review on Thursday would be amazing. Well, partnerships, if you tell me you didn't tell me what exam you're taking, I'll assume you're taking a Series 7. There's only 2 or 3 direct participation program questions, and all test prep vendors go way, way overboard on partnerships. You're going to definitely get tested on the types of partnerships we have as investment opportunities, direct participation programs. You're definitely going to get tested on the GP and the LP, right? The limited partners provide the money. The general partner provides the experience, manages the business, and there's the flow through. You're definitely going to get tested on partnerships are not liquid. You can't get in or out of a partnership without the permission of the general partner. That's very testable. I wouldn't worry about, cash flow and pass through and all that other stuff that recourse notes. I just don't think you're going to see it. But I would have a general idea that passive activity losses from partnerships can only be offset by passive income, or vice versa. Passive income can only be offset with passive activity loss. That part of your portfolio is considered separate, right? So my portfolio, I could take, for example, $3,000 against my gross income, not so as it relates to partnerships. I think all kinds of people get hung up on orders. That's pretty simple. There's only two types of orders: market orders and limit orders, right? And the only order that has no contingency, no qualifier, is a market order. I want immediate execution at the best available price. I'm more interested in execution than I am price. I'm demented. I've been doing this a long time, and people don't get it. I built this off-grid compound. I'm looking for an EcoGen generator. It's the Generac that's made for off-grid use, and can't find this thing. I scour the country, and then finally, this guy giving up, and I'm going to just repurpose a Generac, like city version generator for my off-grid compound. And I call the guy, and he goes, "Well, Dean," he says, "there is one here. The guy made his deposit. He hasn't picked it up, and I can give it to you." And I said, "I'll take it." He said, "I haven't told you the price." I said, "It doesn't matter. I'll take it." And he goes, "Well, you don't know." I said, "Listen, I need immediate execution. I'm more interested in that generator than I am the price." He goes, "Well, that's not how it works. I got to send you a quote, and you got to accept the quote." I go, "Get it over here, right?" One time I was at the airport, and all of a sudden my plane disappeared. The flight that I needed. I went up the Delta and looked where the next flight was, and I said, "Listen, I need my butt on that plane." And they go, "Well, we haven't told you what the price of the ticket is." I said, "It doesn't matter. Whatever the price is, I got to pay it. I can't be stuck at this airport tonight. So if that plane is leaving and there's a seat, charge me what you will," right? That's a market order. Limit order means I only want to do business at my price or better. Clients get hung up on this all the time. Nobody has to do business with you at your price or better. As a buyer, my price or less. As a seller, my price or more. Those are called buy limits and sell limits. And again, I would put a buy limit below the current market price and a sell limit above the current market price. Otherwise somebody might take advantage of me. So those are the two. There's only two. We can add additional qualifiers or contingencies to our orders. For example, I could make it a stop order where I tell my broker, "Hey, stop the loss." And I can have, when I pull the trigger, I say, make it a market order or make it a limit order. So we have sell stop limits, buy stop limits. And again, it would be silly for you to give me a buy stop limit or a sell stop limit, because then you're telling me you want to go home, but only if you can get your price or better. So stop orders are used as a qualifier to stop losses, protect profits, or establish a stock position. So whatever there's three of a thing, we should expect the accept format on the test. You say, "Oh, Dean, I want to place a stop order." I say, "Oh, you're trying to stop a loss, protect a profit, or establish a stock position." You go, "No, I'm not." I go, "Well, then you're confused, because those are the three uses of a stop order," right? So I don't think that's either one of those are big areas if you're taking Series 7. The biggest areas on Series 7 are munis, mutual funds, and options. So none of those are material to your success on Thursday, but you still have time to review and put that into the category of owning it, right? Like you said, you watched all my content, but I do have several versions of type of order lectures. I have lecture replays, I have coaching calls, tutoring replays, I have class replays. So you can put that in the channel search bar, and a lot of practice questions will come up as well. Oh, that hurts. That hurts. Yeah, one again is so crucial. If I don't pass, can you tell me the best way to enter the finance industry? Well, I don't like the negative vibes there already, right? You're gonna make it if you only missed it by 1 point. I can't imagine you haven't found a point in that time frame, right? You had to wait 30 days, so we're saying you've had 3 weeks, and I can't believe we haven't found that opportunity. What's the best way to enter the finance industry? I would call it adjacent industries. So, maybe get a job at a bank. And as you're starting at the bank, there's going to be an investment specialist. Maybe, you try and chat them up and see how that might be an alternative, or maybe an insurance company. So I would look at adjacent fields to finance, insurance, banking. That might be a sideway way to get into the business. But, the easy way is make sure you get your SIE done. Woohoo! Cheers. Yeah, I believe, Benjamin, I'm probably a little different. When I'm teaching options, I run 2 tracks. One track is, just you want to pass the test and some tricks. Silo, cal, push, tricks. And the other track I try and run is, can you understand it? Because if you intellectually understand it, then you don't have to memorize a bunch of junk. I always tell people when we start options, I say, listen, if you go down the memory road, the amount of things you're going to have to memorize is going to compound. Where if you get good at contract specifications, just short to put as an obligation to buy. And you can track money. That's the T, money in, money out, debit, credit, pluses, minus, however you do that. You're going to be in really good shape on options. So kudos on passing that, Benjamin. I'm glad you found those option lectures helpful. In my options playlist, the first 4 are what you should watch. The first video is Introduction to Options. The second video is Basic Option Strategies. The third is Stock Plus Options, Hedging. And the fourth video is Advanced Option Strategies. I think there's over 100 videos in there. So those 4 it tells you that. The more videos are in suggested watch order. So love it. Passed the SIE yesterday. Woo! Watch the mighty 90. I'm glad to hear that. So, when I first started the YouTube channel, it was kind of fun because everybody said, Dean, nobody will ever watch hour-long videos. You've got to have 10, 15-minute videos. That's the max. And I said, well, I don't know how to do that. I mean, I only know how to kind of hit play and record and, do an hour lecture. That's kind of what I've been doing for 20, 30 years. And unbeknownst to me, it was well received. And I started making these series, SIE in 60 minutes, series 7 in 60 minutes. And those were very, very popular. And people wanted me to do it over again. I said, well, I don't want to do the over again. So instead, I came back with the mighty 90. I now have, for the SIE, I have a dirty 30. I have a series SIE in 60, and I have the mighty 90. So I'm going to make a new place, 30, 60, 90. You pick. Now, those videos are not going to help you. If you don't know it, you don't know it. It's not going to make a difference the night before. But I think those are nice to get you in a nice rhythm. It's not a natural circadian rhythm to wake up and go take a test. So I'm hoping those videos, and I've got a lot of positive feedback. The SIE one has almost 300,000 views. I'm not sure if that's one person watching it 300,000 times. That's crazy, right? I don't think there's 300,000 SIE test takers out there. So the channel is coming up on 8 million views. It's just crazy. Blows my mind. So I'm glad to hear that. Kudos on your first testing victory. The journey of going 3-0 begins with 1-0. We had somebody earlier who's done the hat trick, so you got the first trick done, the first trick. All right, cheers. There we go. Oh, so you missed it on the 4th testing victory. Oh, man. God, that hurts. I felt confident the next try. I studied for totally. Any extra tips? The 65, I really think, is one of the more difficult exams. And if you only missed it by 3 questions, I would tell you that, again, the same thing. Usually that's not knowledge deficit. You have a knowledge base. I can't imagine that in the time frame of your 30-day wait period, we're not going to find the points you need to get over the top. But what we want to make sure we have, and here's my recommendation, our tip, is make sure you overlearn. Make sure you overlearn so that we have a margin of safety. Because what we didn't have when you missed by 1 or 2 or 3 points, what you didn't have is a margin of safety, and we need a margin of safety. So I don't know what you were getting on your practice test on the 65. I would like you to be in the mid 70s, but if this is your second time, maybe we want to be in the 80s. I told you I have a gentleman who's testing Thursday, and he's pushing that envelope at 80, which is right where he needs to be. Higher the better. 8 a.m. Not happy about that. Well, I'm getting a lot of questions about what you should do the next few days, but not enough data on where you're at right now. I can't tell you where you're going if I don't know where you're at. So for those of you who are asking me these questions about what you should do the next few days, I'd like to have a data point. Have you done a practice test? Do you have a score? What was that practice test score? If you're testing Friday and no more than one practice test a day, but I would still be identifying areas of remediation by doing a practice test Wednesday, that's tomorrow. Get that score. You should spend as much time remediating that as you did doing the test. I'm not sure what test you're taking. If it's the SIE, make sure you go take that FINRA SIE exam. I have exams, practice tests on all this. So my first recommendation would be tomorrow, do a practice test, get a score. Hopefully you're in the mid 70s. Identify areas for remediation because basically Wednesday's your last day to work your ass off. Thursday, you got to kind of slow it down a little bit, get some rest. It depends if you're reading the book again and it's just mush, then maybe get a different vendor's book to read. But yes, I do think when you read the book the second time, I had somebody who like highlighted every word of the book. I'm like, oh my God. And I think if you read it a second time through, you'll be better at knowing what part of it is important. Maybe, this person, I told him buy a different color highlighter. So yes, I'm not opposed to reading that book again with a fresh set of eyes as much as you can. Right. I know that if you read it once, it's going to be difficult, but maybe if you get a different test prep vendor's book, maybe that helps. But I do think you're better prepared to read it the second time and go, oh, I didn't realize that's what that was about. Now I got it. So yes, I think you should. I'm doing it neat tonight. I usually like a cube to open it up a little bit, but tonight I'm doing it neat. Do portfolio, well, dollar weighted for test purposes. Well, yeah, it's not about portfolio managers. It's about mutual funds using time weighted returns because of the pooled nature of the money coming in and out. And dollar weighted for test purposes would be a individual's portfolio. Right? So do portfolio managers, investment advisors, that's not the test question. The test question is that time weighted, that the portfolio manager of a mutual fund, for example, a pooled account, shouldn't be penalized for the willy-nilly nature of people coming in and out of the fund, putting money in, redeeming, that kind of thing. And then dollar weighted would be I'm managing Dr. Jones' portfolio, and now we know that's his portfolio and his money coming in and out. So dollar weighted, the way I would think about it as a test issue is time weighted is better for mutual funds, pooled accounts. Dollar weighted is better for individual portfolios. Communication with customers, products, what videos will help me on your channel? Well, all my things, communications with clients and prospects is called disclosures. So I would be looking for my videos on disclosures. So what videos? So just put disclosures 66 and see what comes up. Disclosure big time. Disclosure on ethical business practices, like 25 questions. I like it, Jordan. Thanks. So there you go. You look good. You look good. So that's right where you need to be. You're in striking distance. I think you're going to make your mark. So rinse and repeat, I would tell you. Whatever you've been doing is working. So just do the same. Don't wear yourself out. What I mean by that is don't, put the pedal to the metal too much, because remember, don't want to run out of fuel before you stick the landing, right? So start backing off the day before. You got some more time. So I love those scores. Those indicate you're going to make your mark. Love it. Kaplan. The thing that makes, I think, Kaplan the most competitive as compared to all the test prep vendors is the Kaplan QBank, because the Kaplan QBank for all the exams has a performance tracker, which makes it very easy for you to identify areas of remediation. And so that's why I think Kaplan is the best, because of that QBank. Finish the whole achievable prep. My SI is once a month. Once a month is prep has been taken. What does review look like going forward? Well, Anthony, particularly on achievable, my biggest thing about achievable is they have a lot of variance in their practice test scores on the SIE and the actual exam. I don't think it puts you at risk, but my biggest thing would be supplement. Once you get done with your achievable course, my channel or whatever, I have a lot of Kaplan SIE content, Notman SIE content, STC. Go look at some of that just to kind of confirm those issues, right? Do another practice test, get another score. So that's what I would suggest. I would just, once you're through your achievable program, supplement. I don't think you're at risk on the SIE. If you were taking a 7, I would say you are at risk unless you supplement. But on the SIE, I don't think you're at risk. But get some confirmation when you get done. Third time, Thursday morning. All right. Confidence, I can't prove it, but confidence is 10 points, I think, anecdotally. So if you're feeling good, you're feeling confident, that's worth some points. So I think you're going to make your mark Thursday morning. Woo! Okay, well, past perfect is got positive variance in your favor. So past perfect, you should add some points to that. So I'm feeling pretty good on a 68 because I just told you the variance in the scores is in your favor. Without any reviews, quick review, there you go. How much should you be getting on in order to pass the SIE? I think all those scores indicate you're going to be successful. Same thing, though, I just said about achievable. I'll now say the same thing about past perfect. Go do the FINRA SIE practice test, both of you, by the way. Make sure you're taking, it would be a big time sin. Angels would weep for you, Anthony. And angels would weep for you, Purvi, if you don't take the FINRA SIE practice test. If you haven't already done it, I do it 2-3 days out. I think it's a very good reflection of the actual exam. So just confirm your scores. I think both of you are where you need to be. I also have on my channel, I wrote a doppelganger version. So you can watch me go through that FINRA practice test, hit pause, and hit play and see how you did. You watch me do it on video. But I also then took their answer sets and then changed the questions because I think their answer sets are great. And the wrong answers on that FINRA practice test are right answers to different questions. So I have a doppelganger version of it that I would check out as well. So make sure you just confirm your past perfect, your achievable scores. Knopman's great. I feel really good. You should be great, Ovo. Knopman's the best test prep vendor for 79. If you're getting those scores on their exams, you should feel really, really good. Knopman isn't a low-cost provider, but boy, I think they add value. So I'm a big fan of Knopman. I just had somebody on the 24. I recommended Knopman. I go, oh, they're so expensive. And I go, well, listen, you're a 24. You should have the resources to pay for some white glove service, right? Past the 63. Woo! Yeah, okay, we're doing pretty good. Let's see if I'm going to make it without having to pour another dram here. That's good stuff. I have a guy, he's from Barcelona, and he's going back home to Barcelona. And we were talking in the cigar lounge the other day. He was talking about how he's an F1, and I think it was Glenn Fittich has an F1 16-year-old Scotch that he really wanted. I couldn't believe it was only $75. He's the host of the cigar lounge, and his name is Danny. I whipped out $100. I go, hey, on me. There's your going away present. To keep the rest as a dip. I thought, well, that's pretty good. You can get a nice bottle of Scotch for less than $100. Can't get Johnny Walker Blue for less than $100. 24, General Securities principal in the house, or would be General Security. Do I have any put on investment banking, issuing securities in the trading markets? Well, if I'm teaching a 20-person class for the 24, I don't teach the 24 class anymore because I think Kaplan got tired of paying me. I charge a lot more than in-house Kaplan instructors for such things. But if I was teaching a 20-person class, I would expect every person in that class to pass. When I would lose a couple of people, here's what they have in common. They are packaged product persons. They've been working at the American funds, for example. They have a 6 and 26, and they've been doing that for 30 years. And now they come to take a 24, and there's a lot of subjects areas there that they haven't dealt with in that 20 years, like banking, trading, right? Issuing securities is part of corporate finance, investment banking. So I would really suggest, I don't know Michelle or Micheline, is it Micheline or Micheline? I apologize if I'm doing that incorrectly. Make sure you power up on banking and trading for sure. And I have a 24 playlist, and check that out. I've got almost the complete 24 in that playlist. So particularly check out the banking, issuing security. I see you got your comma there. That's exactly right. And trading markets. Check out my limit order protection videos. I have several videos on limit order protection. I have several practice questions based on limit order protection. On the banking side, make sure you got syndicates down. Eastern syndicates, Western syndicates. Make sure you got stabilization down. So I think any insight, there you go. So I don't know if you fit the profile of somebody I just said is at risk on 24, but if you do, it's good that you recognize that and you deal with it. I would tell you that my bankers and my traders on the 24 struggle with retail supervision, but good news for them, it's not enough to kill them, right? They get lost on mutual funds and IRAs and things like that. Can I go over options? Well, this is really the wrong venue. That's kind of like asking me, how does the universe work? I'm not sure how I would accomplish that in this format of a live stream Q&A. If you could narrow that down a little bit, like, can you go over a covered call or you go over a straddle or a spread, I might be helpful and be able to do that. But Amina, what I would recommend to you is go to deantinneytutoring.setmore.com, deantinneytutoring.setmore.com, and go to the weekly Q&A jam session. And that would be the appropriate venue where I have a whiteboard, and then you can be a little more articulate about what it is that you're struggling with. So if for some reason I don't have the jam session available, because on my booking page on the free stuff, it caps once I get like 6 people or 10 people, because I don't want to have 50 people in there. But Amina, if you can't find that, you have my permission to join me for my office hour. And same thing, just sign up for the office hour on the class tab. And that would be where I could help you with options. Or if you can narrow that question down this evening, I'd be more than happy to answer a particular question about options. Dan, thanks so much for joining us on LinkedIn. We broadcast to Facebook, we broadcast to LinkedIn, and we broadcast to YouTube, our preferred platform. Would it be considered selling dividends to have a? Yeah, absolutely. Before the X date, while placing a do not reduce order qualifier. Wow, Dan, I don't think you're going to see that on the test. Would you be considered selling to have a client purchase a stock? Let's just deal with this separately. So the X date is the first date on which the stock no longer trades with the dividend. Think here like your ex-spouse. You're no longer trading with your spouse attached. I'd say, when was the last date you were married? That's the day before the divorce. When is the first day you're single? That's the day the divorce became effective, right? So X is Latin for without. And, the company says we're going to pay, for example, Bank of America's dividend is 21 cents. I think they're raising it 24 cents a quarter. And so I call you the day before the record, And I say, listen, Dan, if you buy the Bank of America stock today, you get the 21 cent dividend. If you buy tomorrow, you don't get the dividend. You've heard of dividend capture programs. That's an artificial sense of urgency doesn't exist. Dan says, hey, Dean, isn't the stock, shouldn't it go down by the amount of the dividend? Or doesn't that just create for me an unnecessary tax situation? I said, well, gee, you're no fun. You say, Dan says, can I talk to your supervisor? Selling dividends is a big no-no. Mom was shopping for a car and I was out of town, and she was Friday at the dealer, and they told her that she couldn't wait for her son to get back on Monday because the financing offer ended today. Anyway, so, she called me and I said, put that guy on the phone. I said, listen, I'm not sure if that's real or not, but, if you can't honor that till I get back on Monday, good news for us. There's lots of dealers in Vegas, and I'm sure we'll find somebody who will honor that same deal. Oh, no, we can keep it open. So I'm not sure if they were using that as an artificial sense of urgency to kind of close Mom or not. I'm not sure if there's a code of conduct for car dealers. Now, orders below the market, buy limits and sell stops, we don't want them triggered as a result of the ex-dividend date. So we're going to automatically adjust those. And we're going to adjust your orders, your buy limits and sell stops for that, so they're not accidentally triggered. And that's where your second part comes in. Whereas I say, hey, Dan, I travel a lot. I don't want you to reduce my order. If it's a buy limit at Apple at 260, just leave it alone. Do not reduce. So DNR does not mean do not resuscitate. It means do not reduce. Now, I don't think you'll see those as in the same question. But if I ask you to do not reduce and then, it gets triggered, it would be my intent. I don't know why I would be putting a DNR on an order just prior to the X date. So, I would think it would be intent. So I'd like to see if you have a particular practice question, send it my way, explication request at guruexamprep.com. Maybe there's a particular question you're looking at, and that would be a little more helpful. But let's be clear, using the X date as an artifice, an artificial sense of urgency, is definitely a violation of the code of conduct, right? By 4 points, got an 80. Go back to 30 shot. I would approach this time. Well, again, I have a video called "You Failed, Is It Over?" Spoiler alert, the answer is no. I have 5 recommendations about how to respond to that misfortune. It is in the video description. So if you go to the video description, there's links there. Hit that link. The first recommendation is to do an intellectual debrief with yourself, to sit down, get the test specification, test content outline. I'll have a new video up soon where somebody took me up on that first part, and boy, did a beautiful thing with pluses and minuses on that test specifications. And I'm going to put that up and talk about that's what you should do so you can plug those gaps. So check that out. And that has some good recommendations about how to respond. All right, cool. I love it. Victorious test takers are always welcome here. It's good for morale. Stay plugged in, right? Stay plugged in because you are not alone. You are not alone. So make sure you stay connected, right? So anymore with, life being what it is, whether you stay connected with us on Facebook or the Tuesday Lives or the Reddit, there's a community of people here to buck you up. And I think sometimes that isn't as much as it used to be, because it used to be we'd have like a cohort of people who would be taking the test together. We'd be doing it together. We'd go to lunch together. Somebody had a bad day, maybe we have a cocktail after work, not so much anymore. So feel free. We love victorious test takers coming back and sharing their victories. Like I say, great for morale. All looks good. Well, I don't think you should be concerned. There is a test question if you're taking a 65, 66. That's called a range, right? So the range here is 70 to 82 and 70, 74, 82, 75, 80, 74. I'm not too worried about that variance, standard deviation. I'd like a tighter pattern. I'd like less standard deviation, but I think you're okay. No, I don't think it's going to come down to random questions. I think that's good. You're testing tomorrow. Well, if you're testing tomorrow, you should be good night. As we talked earlier, you should be getting a night's sleep. You got to go with what you got. Stay with what you know. Be confident in yourself. Be confident in the execution of the study plan. Most important, be confident in your answers. I have something. This is the only thing that you can do tonight that would matter. And what I'm going to suggest to you, Edward, has 100% pass rate. 100%. Never failed. I want you tonight, before you go to bed, I want you to go into your bathroom. I want you to look in the mirror, and I want you to say, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest Series 7 test taker of them all? Edward, Edward, Edward." Right? When you wake up in the morning, I want you to go back into the bathroom. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest Series 7 test taker of them all? Edward, Edward, Edward. Right now, Edward, if you really want to do get assured insurance on that, I want you at break about, question 55, 60. I want you to take a break. I want you to go to the restroom of the Prometric site. I want you to look in the mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the greatest test taker of them all? Edward, Edward, Edward. Hoorah. Right. So I had a guy who actually did that. He did that on the Prometric site. So there you go. There's your Hail Mary in terms of what we can do tonight to help you for tomorrow. Tuning out. All right. Woo! As we said, Taylor, victorious test takers are always welcome on our Tuesday live streams. So cheers to you. Yeah, munis and options, lots of performance opportunities. Absolutely. So coordination would be at the same time I'm actually making a federal registration. So I'm coming to you from Arizona. Spent most of my career in California. And in California, we have a company called In-N-Out Burger, privately held by the Snyder family. But if In-N-Out Burger was going to go public, or maybe you're in Georgia, Chick-fil-A, privately held. if Chick-fil-A or, in Alberta were going to go public, they'd make a registration statement with the SEC. Key point, registration statement with the SEC. Then they would coordinate with any state in which they plan on selling it. So coordination is a way of registering a security at the same time you're doing an SEC registration. So if you're not doing an SEC registration, you can't coordinate. For example, famous Rule 147 was Ben & Jerry's. The original capital for Ben & Jerry's was raised through a 147 intrastate offering of securities. They only offered the securities for sale in Vermont to residents of Vermont. So they can't coordinate that because they're not doing a federal registration. So they're going to qualify. They're going to say to the state administrator of Vermont, what do we have to do to register this security? One of my favorite deals in my career was Del Taco restaurant properties. We would raise $8 to $12 million, buy all cash real estate, and build Del Tacos. It too was a Rule 147 offering, an intrastate offering of securities. We only offered it in California to residents of California. Del Taco had 80% of their business and assets within California, and so we qualify it. Now, notice filing isn't a form of registration. The National Securities Market Improvement Act created two baskets, federally covered investment advisors and federally covered securities, and said, okay, if you're a mutual fund, you don't have to register if you're like Franklin Templeton Fund Distributors and you're going to roll out a Wisconsin tax-free fund. You're not going to have to coordinate or qualify, register that mutual fund with the state of Wisconsin. What you would do is notice filing. I think of this as a courtesy to the state administrator of Wisconsin and a way for them to get some fees, but it is not a method of registration. So that would be the notice filing would be done by a mutual fund is how that shows up on the test. Any federally covered security, we could do notice filing, but it would be a mutual fund on your exam. Last question from me. When I failed, it said low performance in capital markets and Section 4 regulatory framework per FINRA. Advice, please. Yeah, capital markets is the process I was just talking about. Capital markets is this idea of how do we take securities public. So this would be 33, the prospectus for Paper Act, and then as well as all those safe harbors available, Reg D private placements to accredited investors, Reg A max of 75 million, interstate offering. So that would be the capital markets discussion. Quibs, what are quibs and what are quibs allowed to do? Unregistered and registered securities, foreign and domestic. So that's capital markets. Regulatory framework is understanding the SEC is God. State administrators think they are the SEC, having primary jurisdiction, interpretation, and enforcement of the domestic securities laws of the United States of America. And then this idea of the state administrators, and then FINRA, the SRO, the MSRB, the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, who publishes rules but doesn't have enforcement power. So just get that content outline, and it'll break down these sections more for you. It'll match up perfectly, Purvey, with your printout. So go to the FINRA website, hit the content outline. It'll show you section 1. It'll tell you exactly what's in that. You can watch me do it, by the way. I have a whole video where I go through that content outline and tell you exactly what you're going to get tested on. I definitely, Don, will tell Brian. Brian is at the Kraken. He's a big sports fan, so he's at the Kraken game tonight. So that is why he's not with us. Cap, I love it. I love that. Multiple vendors, love it. So between the two, I think you're in pretty good shape. Yeah, it's just a matter of getting around to it. So yes, I can. I just, I'm a one-man band, and Brian makes fun of me when I say, Don, that I'm a retired stockbroker, which is kind of what I think of myself. I started this as a side hustle, and it's taken on epic proportions, and I didn't envision myself accidentally falling into a real job. So, the answer is yes, I certainly can. I need to, but like I say, I have other things going on too that I got to take care of. For coordination, think federally registered. I think I just said that right on, Taylor. You're coordinating. You're doing more than one registration, right? You're doing more than one registration. I don't like the word interstate because it could be just a single state if we're going to sell in California, but yeah. Qualification, think smaller, one state, no federal registration. Yeah. What happened? I just lost my. Where are we at? I've seen a question. Would you buy? Let's see. At 6 a.m. Huh. Oh, there we go. Found my place. Thursday, looking good. Looking chef, looking good. You'll be cooking with fire on Thursday. Love it. All those scores indicate you're going to make your mark. They only took an AM, which was a 67. Well, some people are a morning person. Most people are, but yeah, so I wouldn't worry about that. All looks good. Test Geek 65, 81 green light, all looking good. 3 days. Yeah, I love it. So those all scores look good. Just you're looking to find those points. You're looking at bringing the stuff your weekend to par and keeping everything that you're at par, and then getting above par. Right. That's what I call that margin of safety. Yeah, Army combat. Well, thank you for your service, Anthony. I was in the Marine Corps. I should know with that good-looking haircut that you're a former vet. What were some of your best transfer rules in the industry? Well, Anthony, now that you ask, I think dedication, discipline, organization, right? So I think there's a reason that a lot of broker-dealers like to hire vets because they think that we might know a thing about dedication, discipline, organization, and that we can adapt and overcome to the sales environment. I love it. So yeah, like I say, thank you for your service. And I think, listen, as a combat vet, Anthony, I think the other thing is that I got to think how I'm going to say this. We don't get as wobbly as other people perhaps do. So I had this guy getting in my face, and I think he thought he was going to intimidate me or bully me. And I said, listen, I'm a Marine, I don't bully very easily. So I don't know what you think you're accomplishing. Anthony, I probably did have haters, but I didn't know I had haters until I got on social media. And then I found out, oh my God, I got haters. And I thought Anthony was kind of fun. My dad's name is Dean Tenney as well. And he's a missionary. And every once in a while, when Anthony, we get into these social media spats, somebody will say, you should turn the other cheek. And I go, no, that's my missionary father. He might turn the other cheek. I'm a Marine and I return fire. So every time you're coming at me, something's coming back down range. So that's the Series 6. Woohoo! Anthony, I'm also proud of my nephew. My nephew joined the Marine Corps. I got out as a captain of Marines. What a great thing to be. And then he got a great job at Amazon. Amazon loves hiring former military folks. Registration exemptions for 66. Well, there's exempt securities and exempt transactions. So exempt securities is a noun. It's just simply a list. The big one would be the U.S. government and municipal issuers. They're exempt issuers of securities, meaning they don't need to register the security. And then we have exempt transactions, and that's how I sell it. It's a verb. It's a private placement, no more than 10 offers. Maybe it's a transaction by a creditor liquidating collateral. The securities were pledged, something like that. So generally exempt securities is a big laundry list, a noun. Exempt transactions is how I'm selling it, right? So Del Taco, I just mentioned Del Taco, and I mentioned, Ben and Jerry's. They are non-exempt issuers. I would think it's more important, Logan, to know that non-exempt for test purposes means a corporate issuer of securities, right? So if it is a non-exempt issuer, a corporation, then if they're not registering that security through coordination or qualification, then why not? Then we come into that list of safe harbors, exempt transactions. But I think a lot of times people spend too much time on registering a security. This whole category on 65 and 66 is, how do we register a security? If not, why not? How do we register a broker dealer? If not, why not? How do we register in an agent of a broker dealer? If not, why not? How do we register investment advisory firms? If not, why not? How do we register investment advisor reps? If not, why not? There's only 3 or 4 questions on registration of securities. The vast majority of those registration questions are going to be on investment advisors, federally covered or state, never both, and investment advisor reps. So I think a lot of people go down a rabbit hole of trying to memorize, exempt issuers of securities and exempt transactions. I think you're better served to spend your time on registration of investment advisors and investment advisor reps. 2 weeks ago, 15 option questions. Thank you, Taylor. I always say 20 plus or minus 5. 10 on munis, that seems a little light, but hey, every draw is different. 20 on mutual funds sounds about right. Yeah, that is odd. 5 on UITs. I don't know. Kind of like somebody asked about incentive stock options. I don't know if I could dream up 5 questions on a UIT. Investment trust, what I would certainly know is that they have a fixed portfolio of professionally selected assets. Fixed portfolio means it's passively managed. It means it has a lower cost structure than active management. So, and 3 on DPPs, that sounds about right. That sounds like a normal draw, except for that 5-ish on UITs. There you go. Non-qualified, very testable. Non-qualified means you're funding it with after-tax money and you have a cost basis. Qualified means you're getting it through your employer, and your employer is either an educational institution, 403B, or your employer is a nonprofit, 501c, and they're funding it for you, and therefore you have a zero cost base, right? So, Edward, the test question is in a non-qualified variable annuity, when you take a distribution, it's last money's in, first money's out. So you're going to get taxed on whatever that number is. Let's say you give me $1 million, you buy a non-qualified variable annuity, now you got 10 million. So your cost basis is $1 million. So if I send you a lump sum distribution, your ordinary income tax rate's on $9 million. You have a cost basis, $1 million in that example. That stay focused on. There's no way to get anything other than tax at ordinary income rates for a distribution from a retirement plan. Same scenario, you have a qualified variable annuity, it too has 10 million. And you take a lump sum of 10 million, it's all taxable because you have no cost basis. So that would be the test question there. 6 on money last week, tips to pass or fail. Watch my series 6 in 60 minutes. I'd certainly check that out. I haven't got around to a mighty 90 for that one yet, or a dirty 30, but make sure you check that out. I have some very good tutoring replays on mutual funds. Make sure, we just talked about this, make sure you spend some time on variable annuities. I think of variable annuities as mutual funds with insurance wrappers. So make sure on your 6, you pay attention to variable annuities, customer accounts. I think I don't know how you did on your SIE, but I think if you did well on your SIE, you can almost test out of a 6. There's that much overlap on it. So I think you're in good shape. Oh, it looks like we're almost time for the drawing. So thanks for hanging in there. We're running a little over. Let me see if I can finish up our last questions here. I've seen questions read about, would you buy a put or call on the VIX? So the VIX is the fear gauge, and it's the inverse relationship. Yeah, it's inverse. So if I think the market's going down, I buy a call on the VIX. If I think the market's going down, I buy. If I think the market's going up, I would buy a put on the VIX. So it has that inverse relationship. A sharp increase, yeah. It's the inverse. It has an inverse relationship, the VIX with the market. It's based on the put call ratio. Put VIX into the channel search bar, and I think I got a couple things that will show up for you. My practice, we're all cap. I think that's great. You look good. I think you're going to make your mark. I think I definitely. Why not? If you have the resources, just make sure you don't get too much, right? I mean, I had a guy at Morgan Stanley bought every course known to man, and he came into the exam to my class, and he had, my God, like a duffel bag full of stuff. I said, now you realize that's the same stuff sliced and diced differently. So make sure you don't get too much stuff that you can't go with. I think Series 7 Dummies is for the price point. I think it's pretty reasonable. I don't think you could pass with it, but I think the questions are okay. Training consultants averaging low 80s. Think you're fine. Yeah. Anything that is an absolute we'll see on the exam other than I don't know how to answer that. There's lots of obviously things I think you're going to see. Maybe watch my video, tips, tricks, and memory aids, which is the night before. My Series 7 in 60 minutes, which is those videos all about that. I don't think I have the 7 Mighty 90 up. I think I do. And then I have a dirty 30 on options. So watch those little, carve outs videos. When they ask you pick correlation, best to diversify. Yeah, that's exactly. No, not zero. Lurker, Ken Finnan is wrong about this. STC is wrong about this. I don't know why they're not familiar with modern portfolio theory in this regard. Modern portfolio theory is not truth. It's just a way of explaining things. The more a theory can explain, the better that theory is. And it's negative correlation. The example I give is if I have your portfolio, you have Exxon in it. Adding Chevron does not add, under modern portfolio theory, by the way. That's why it's being asked. It's not about what you think or what STC thinks. It's about modern portfolio theory. And here the theory would be that if I add Chevron to your account, I haven't accomplished much. So what I'm looking for is something that has negative correlation. I would use Lurker Delta, the airline company, right? Delta has negative correlation with Exxon. When oil goes up, good for Exxon, bad for Delta because they use jet fuel. When Delta goes up, jet fuel goes down, bad for Exxon, good for Delta. Now, STC and Ken Finnan thinks that cancels out each other, and that means they're missing the whole point of modern portfolio theory. But I assure you, Looker, the answer is -1. And as I always say in these things, you can answer however you want, but if you answer anything other than -1, you're going to miss the question. So that's completely up to you about how you want to proceed. It's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you want. Now, be careful for the kind of the U-turn where they flip it on you. And they say, which would provide the least amount of diversification. And then it would be the positive one, the one that comes closer to the positive one. Now, in general context, Lurker, without the context of modern portfolio theory, then it's just different correlation. Like, why would I buy a international mutual fund, hoping I have different correlation to U.S. securities, right? So then it's just different correlation. Why would I buy real estate? Again, different correlation. So in that context, it's just different correlation. Retake tomorrow. Yeah, there you go. Should I review? Yeah, absolutely. Neiman, no reason not to check out the SDC Crunch Time Facts. Those are wonderful. So certainly check those out. Check out my series 4 in 60 minutes too, Nima. It's kind of a riff on those Crunch Time Facts. It's my kind of a version of a Crunch Time Fact. So check out my series. I think I have a series 4 in 60 minutes. I'm almost certain I do. So check that out as well. All right, Edward, I love it. I love it. Federal acts and investment characteristics. Fix it right. Any tips on how to lock it down? Well, we're coming to the end here. It's time for our drawing. I think the 2 federal acts, well, there's 3, right? 33, you can get right by covering up the screen. Are they asking about paper? Prospectuses, 33. Are they asking about people and places? 34. So those are the 2 big ones. That's called the New Deal, President Roosevelt. And, 33 says basically you're selling brand new securities to the public. You have to make a registration statement. And then the Investment Advisor Act of 1940, right? And so those would be the acts I would get. Would I like you to know everything? The answer is yes, Cody. Here we go. So maybe this is going to get me in some trouble with some people. Would I like you to know everything? The answer is yes. But if you can't know everything, don't focus on the federal part. Focus on the state stuff, the Uniform Securities Act, the template you're being tested on. It's not the SEC that's making you take the damn test. It's the North American Securities Administrator Association. So stay focused on the Uniform Securities Act. That's more important than the federal stuff. All right, we got to come up with a word to put into the thing. I think I answered that already. Did I not? I think that's from long ago in a far off galaxy. I think I answered that. Ice Kaplan's the best. Surety bonds are based on, to protect the firm or protect customers from embezzlement or fraud from the firm and its associated persons. No, I don't think so. It depends on what you exam. I'm imagining you're taking an NASA exam. Yeah, biggest struggle. Yeah, don't worry about it, Maverick. Don't worry about it. On 63, just make sure you do all the practice questions. Practice, drill, and rehearse. Practice, drill, and rehearse. Past the 63. Woohoo! All right, it looks like we're almost to the end. So let me just see here. Joining a little late. Do you think achievable are enough? I do. I'm not a big achievable fan, but I think for the SIE, it doesn't put you at risk. Bit shaky. Would it be better for since you build on that knowledge? Wouldn't it be better? I'm not sure what that question is about. I'm not sure. I think the preferred order is SIE, 766. But if you don't have sponsorship, you can't do the 7. It's an unsteady plan. Is it formal to think 66 questions have been much easier? I don't know about that. No, I wouldn't say that. So they're different. They come at a different angle, Anthony. People who think the 7 was easy struggle on 66 and vice versa. So it's a weird kind of a variance. Check out my video with my recommendations about how to respond to that misfortune. I have 5 of them. Okay, let me go get our Wheel of Fortune for our drawing here. And let's see. Let me get the giveaway tool. And on our giveaway tool, choose live stream. Let's put, we'll do mirror on the wall. Now, you've got to put this exactly into the chat for it to pick up in the drawing. So let me now go share the screen with you. Share screen. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so if you want to participate in the drawing, let's get rid of that. Put that into, please note, Dean screwed it up. It's only got 1 L. So make sure you put it 1 L, or otherwise it won't pick up in the comment section for the drawing. So Anthony, it's only got 1 L, so you got to put it back in there. Brad, you got to put it back in there. It's 1 L, so it's got to be exactly how I do. Do I have a study guide? I have a 63 playlist, but I don't have a study guide. Yeah, 1 L. There we go. Amina's got it. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the greatest test taker of them all? Zamrito. Okay. So everybody get there. We got 8, 9 entries. Nobody else. 1 L. 10. All right, here we go. Oh, Isaac, I thought you were going to win again. So Martha, go to the Dean Tinney. Let me put that up there for you. Go to the class tab. I'm having one tomorrow, but I think it's capped out. So just go there and find, there we go. The class tab, coaching call for drawing winners. And you don't want a tutoring session at a date and time of your choice. You want a coaching call on that tab. I'll put one new one up tomorrow because I know I've got one that we're doing tomorrow. And I don't know how we got 6 people there because it's once a week we do the drawing. But for whatever it's worth, Martha, just find that. You get a Zoom link, and then I show up at that date and time, and then we talk about whatever you want to talk about as it relates to your exam. All right, everybody. Let's see. We got anything else going on here before we call it a night? As my friend Brian says, you take the test, don't let the test take you. And as I say, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. I'll see you next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Feel free to join us at deantenneytutoring.setmore.com for the weekly Q&A jam session, as well as the book club. If there's not a jam session showing, it's because it's already capped out. And again, tomorrow, if it's capped out, I'll add another one. So I don't like to put them up too much in advance because I don't want to end up having all these contingent liabilities with people I promise stuff to. Okay, let's see. We got some more stuff going on. July, December 1st, go recommend practice test and custom ones. Yeah, I like it. You know, it's great about Kaplan's. You can create your custom quizzes. There you go. I love it. Yeah, I think so. This was a good Tuesday. We're here every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Arizona time. So, all right, everybody. I got mom cooking dinner, so I got to go, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.